Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why LeBron and the Cavaliers getting past the Raptors isn't as set in stone as you think.
And I'm Cowherd, and I'll tell you why Russell Westbrook went way too far going after Jazz fans. Speak for yourself starts now. Bad weekend for Russ.
Horrible weekend for Russell Westbrook. I'm glad we got Steven Jackson here to talk about it, though. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by NBA champion Steven Jackson and Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's start in Cleveland, where the Cavaliers held on to beat the Pacers in Game 7 last night, with LeBron putting on another incredible performance and finally getting some help from his supporting cast, who actually increased Cleveland's lead when LeBron went out with cramps at the start of the fourth quarter. Afterwards, LeBron talked about pulling out the tough series win.
You start thinking, like, is this it? Could this be it? You know, that's just human nature. And then the other side of my brain was like, let's go make something happen. You know, let's go. This is what you're here for. You know, you're here to make plays. You know, you're the leader.
It's a total team win, 5 guys in double figures. But I'm just happy for T-Top because Tristan because he's been here with us for so long and been through all the things we've been through over the course of the last 4 years. But to step in and play the way he did, I'm just so happy for him.
All right, last night was definitely the best game by the Cavs starters, not named LeBron, with big jumps in points, field goal percentage, and assists. Cowherd, should LeBron's supporting cast get more credit for that win?
Oh, really? Literally, LeBron shows up to the arena every night and kind of has to guess who will play well. Steph never does. Kyle Lowry doesn't. Ben Simmons doesn't. LeBron's guessing. He's sitting there driving in his Lexus from Akron, and he's like, can I get 13 from Kyle Korver? Can I get 11 from Kevin Love? Man, when you've played this long in the NBA and you have to guess which teammate's going to be decent, I'm not giving him any credit. I'm not.
Yeah, when you relegate your teammates to just being also-rans, yeah, you do have to do a lot of guessing. And look, I don't want to take anything away from what LeBron James did because he was spectacular. But it's not surprising to me that he cramps up and has to sit for 4 or 5 minutes. And, Kevin Love, who's an all-star, actually looks like one. Tristan Thompson, who disappeared in some Khloe Kardashian magic dust, reappears and plays well. He's a champion. The Cavaliers went back to the guys that have done it before. They removed all their new players from the starting lineup. And LeBron gets hurt or cramps up. Yeah, they don't win it without those guys, and they don't win it, I don't think, if LeBron hadn't cramped up.
They don't win it if he doesn't cramp up.
No, not last night.
Oh,
yeah.
no, come on. Like, look, they were decent. All right, I'll give them, they were decent. I'm not going to applaud Kevin Love for scoring 14 points. He shot 41% from the floor. He's a 20-point scorer. I need him to give me 20 a night. I'm supposed to get excited because he scored 14. Kyle Korver, 1 for 7, 3 points. Like, they did enough to win. It's a team game. LeBron can't win it by himself. They did enough to win. But to sit here and applaud them because they had decent numbers, I just can't do that.
Applaud that 5-minute
That was a
stretch
4 or 5 minute stretch.
when they won the game. They won the game during that stretch.
You know who I applaud for the win? The Pacers. Because they lost that series. Cleveland didn't win it. They lost it. Perfect example. The game-winning shot in Game 5. There's no way LeBron's supposed to even get that ball. A great coach will make one of these other guys hit that shot at the end of a game. We know LeBron can hit it. Can anybody else on that team hit a game-winning shot? Secondly, you can't have a game plan with going in this series saying, well, we're going to let LeBron get his and stop everybody else. What Cleveland team have you been looking at all year? We've been talking about his supporting cast. They haven't done anything all year. Why not put him in a position where you have to make big plays in the playoffs now and take away LeBron? Their whole game plan was terrible, and they lost that series. LeBron's dominant, of course, but Indiana lost that series. It had nothing to do with Cleveland.
I do agree with Steven on that. I thought defensively there were 2 mistakes in this series. That was one of them. Mm-hmm. The other one was when Indiana led 2-1, it was 4 minutes to go at home, and they had 2 possessions back-to-back, and Darren Collison hit one, and that to me was Nate McMillan. Timeout. Mm-hmm. This is the season. We can go up 3-1, timeout. Sabonis was playing great.
Right.
Victor was hot. So I would say there were a couple, these series, They're all decided, these 7 gamers, by a moment.
But
Indiana butchered a couple moments.
Look, I'm a Pacer fan, and I agree with what Steven's talking about. I did think the Pacers gave the series away. But last night, or yesterday afternoon, I thought the Cavaliers bench finally contributed in a significant way. When LeBron went into that locker room, everybody thought, oh boy, the Cavaliers are in trouble. No way they can survive a significant stretch without LeBron. And it was 5 minutes. It wasn't 2 minutes.
So you're
it was
giving
5
him credit
minutes.
for
It was
5 minutes of
4.5
good play.
minutes.
It was 5 by my watch.
Nobody plays 48 minutes.
But Indiana, even if
He was LeBron planned on it.
wanted
He
to,
told everybody.
But I'm just saying, the fact that he could only play 43 and a half minutes instead of 48,
it don't matter.
come on. I'm not going to give them credit for that.
But even going back to Indiana, talking about last night, the last game, Kyle Korver, by far the best shooter, right? You get him out the game, you got a good chance of winning.
Yeah.
He had 2 fouls early. Lance Stevenson comes in, and they go away from him. Go to him, get Kyle 3rd foul, or get an easy basket. They was not thinking. They clearly lost the series, and they were the better team.
Here's the one thing I'll say, though. I think LeBron won the series rather than Indiana giving it away. It makes sense what you said, double LeBron, get the ball out of his hands. But who's been able to do that? Like, he gets 30 every series. I mean, Golden State hasn't been able to do it.
But that was their game plan. Let LeBron get his and stop everybody else. Horrible game plan, because LeBron going to get his regardless.
So I think they were thinking, he going to get his no matter what. Let's make sure we keep these. And they came close. I mean, what, they lose by 4?
LeBron was the leading scorer in the playoffs. The next Cavs top scorer was 57, Kevin Love.
That's not going to win you a series.
Well, it did, but it just shows how little a healthy guy is. Now, with the win, the Cavs now move on to face the top-seeded Raptors, the baby dinosaurs, who are actually favored to win the series, which probably makes sense given the Cavs' struggles against the 5-seeded Pacers. And even LeBron had to admit the first round wore him out.
How does what you saw from Indiana, especially their bigs, translate to what you're going to see next round?
Man, I don't know. I'm burnt right now. I'm not thinking about Toronto right now until tomorrow. I'm ready to go home. I'm tired. I want to go home.
Whitlock, you worried LeBron is just burnt out and can't carry the Cavs over Toronto?
Look, he couldn't even come out of his bathrobe after the game, so he is very, very tired. But no, I'm not worried about LeBron James. He's going to give you 30 to 40 regardless. Right. If he has to play every minute of every game, on days off if he has to play a game, he's still going to give you 30 or 40. The rest of that supporting cast, though, the rest of that team, what they did for the totality of that Indiana series will not be good enough against Toronto. If they don't get more from the rest of those guys, again, LeBron's going to dominate and he's going to be LeBron. The rest of those guys have to do more or Toronto will win the series.
You know, you can feel in the NBA sometimes, like when a team moves into a new series, like I didn't feel good about Utah because that OKC series was so emotional. You're like, oh, they're going to get blown out by Houston in game 1. I don't bet the NBA, but you can sense Cleveland's going to go into that Toronto series, Toronto's rested, and they're going to get their ears boxed in game 1. Like, I think LeBron's just not going to be able to reignite it game 1, and you start losing that game 1 in that series.
I bet you any amount of money LeBron has a great game. Now, they may lose, and they may get blown out, and he may not play the fourth quarter. But whatever time LeBron's on the court, he's going to ball out.
I think this is a better matchup for Cleveland, in my mind, because it's a jump-shooting team. They don't have a guy like Oladipo that's coming at you full speed that you can't guard. Oladipo went to the cup every time and got there with no problem against Cleveland. They're going to do the same, but this is a jump team in Toronto. I see Cleveland having a better chance winning this series because they're a great rebounding team. They're not a great man-to-man defending team, as you see, but if they can get this team to take a lot of tough shots and rebound and get out, they got a good chance.
Yeah, I think Cleveland will have an easier chance with Toronto than they did with Indiana.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Cleveland wins in 6. And I think LeBron plays. LeBron likes to amp up the obstacles. I'm tired. I'm dead. He's going to be fine.
Can't never count him out.
Exactly. He's going to get his 37 points in game 1 or whatever. But you do need these other guys to step up. And I feel like, even though there's really not that much evidence, because the young guys, Nance, Hood, Clarkson, they still didn't give you anything.
Right.
But I do feel like having a series under their belt, a tight series, a hard-fought one, they should be better in this series than they were in that one. So I feel very confident.
I swore off in the regular season taking Toronto seriously. They've embarrassed me enough playing Cleveland. But I'm going to go once again to this point because I think we just saw it. Nate McMillan, to me, wasn't able to take advantage of any of the mistakes Cleveland
I think that's fair.
That's
awesome.
I think Dwayne Casey will be able to take advantage. I think Toronto will be better coached than the Indiana team, and I think that will serve them. And I would, if I bet, I would bet on Cleveland to win the series. However, if that supporting cast isn't better, Toronto's going to win.
Toronto's core guys, now they got a solid group of guys coming off that bench that can start on other teams. That's going to be scary for Cleveland, the bench coming out.
Who would have thought Tristan Thompson was absolutely necessary yesterday?
Not
I mean,
me.
they don't win without.
Well, and I thought what Ty, and you could ask why did it take so long? You could see, like, Tristan has trouble with today's NBA where it spread everything out, high scoring, shoot the three. This wasn't that type of series. This was a low scoring series, a little more physical. You could have put him in maybe even.
He normally self-check, though. He normally self-check. He's one of those guys, he going to D himself up on offense. You just got to box him out. He's not a guy that's just really going to change the game. He might do it every once in a while, but I guarantee you we won't be screaming his name next series like that because those guys rebound.
This was his best game in ages.
Welcome back. We're now joined by former excellent slot receiver Greg Jennings.
Slot?
Don't just put me in the slot. It's not just a slot receiver.
He was great. J-Mac, Jason Whitlock. Here we go. Let's move to the NFL draft. Where the second rounder, Greg Jennings, where the Patriots had a busy day making a team record 8 draft trades. That's a lot. They also ended up passing on Lamar Jackson twice, despite rumors they were going to draft him. And then didn't end up picking a quarterback until the 7th round where they took LSU's Danny Etling. Whitlock said the Patriots have drafted Tom Brady's replacement.
No, unless they felt like he was on the board. And I felt like they had zeroed in on Lamar Jackson as a second-round player for them. That's where he was on their draft board. And if he was there, they would have made that move. If they didn't have anybody else evaluated for that position to be a possible replacement for Tom Brady, then you don't make that move. And so I think they stuck with their draft board. If Lamar had fallen to them at the bottom of the second round, I think they would have taken it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they drafted need. Now, I know Belichick says he only drafts value, but they needed an offensive tackle, a running back, and a corner, and they got all 3. And they also went and got a slot receiver. So, the way I look at it, this draft was a referendum on we still think Tom can play for a couple years. That's what it felt like to me. We're going to get him, what we lost, and we'll be favored to win the AFC and get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I would probably think he's also saying, look, man, I had already drafted and developed Tom's replacement. You wanted to move on from him. So now we're going to go about what's best for this season and short term.
Yeah, I have a hard time questioning what the Patriots' methods of business are. But I personally would have liked to see them draft the future of their organization. Having to do that would have made them swap some picks and move up in the draft to get a quarterback that they felt comfortable with of taking the reins after Tom Brady moved on. But they had a great draft. I just don't believe that you can allow a player, which, don't get me wrong, I love Tom Brady, and he's an excellent player. But it's the roles have reversed where the organization has always been in control. Now all of a sudden you see a player who's starting to handcuff an organization, and that's Tom Brady.
Well, let's not go overboard, Greg. I mean, handcuff is strong. This is a team we're forgetting, guys. They were one stop away from winning a Super Bowl, okay? This is a defense that let Blake Bortles go up and down the field on them, and Nick Foles shred them in the Super Bowl. I don't think you need Brady's replacement now when you can just get a couple defenders and win another Super Bowl. This is a situation where Belichick now has, for next year, 6 picks in the first 3 rounds. That's when you'll package together a bunch of picks, move up, and get the quarterback you need. This is a guy, Brady, I mean, he was outstanding this year. I know we all remember what we last saw, and that was losing the Super Bowl. But that wasn't on Tom Brady, okay? That was on the defense, which was 31st in the league in yards per play allowed.
This is the argument for taking a quarterback just because it's a need or you got to look towards the future. That's like looking at your birth certificate and go, oh, I'm 30, I need to get married, So this spouse or whoever that I'm just having a light relationship with, I'm gonna turn it into marriage. And so if the player that they're looking for isn't on the board or it's too costly to go up and get, you just got to keep it moving. Tom Brady's been one of the most durable players in the history of the NFL. Well, you keep rolling that
You could
dice.
argue Tom's their best player. You could argue, right? I mean, he was MVP.
Okay.
Who
What?
else
We
goes?
could.
Okay, so he's their best player. So they went in there and they thought, so we want to get our best player, the Niners tackle, a really good college guard, a slot receiver, and a running back. So what the Patriots basically did is we identified that Tom is still our best player. Let's buy insurance for our number one asset, which is protection and running backs.
I get all of that. And don't get me wrong, again, who am I to question their methods? But when I'm looking at it from a business perspective, and I see Tom Brady is, however many years this is, what is this, 16? 18. And he's had success. Let's go back 2 years. If they lose the Super Bowl in Houston to Atlanta, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo is still there. Like, things can change like that. And my point in even mentioning that is if they don't have the success that we all think they should have this year, then what? You have nothing to move on to. If Tom doesn't want to come back because he doesn't see the future as bright as he once did, then what?
Yeah, that's a very pessimistic look.
Exactly.
Let me look.
I'm
just saying.
Year's draft.
Yeah.
You got next year's draft.
You do have next year's draft, but you would have had a year to develop a guy who was under the
you may
tutelage.
not like.
Greg, at the same
I
time,
get
this
all
is
of
a
that.
franchise who Matt Castle didn't play in college. Let's just plug him in. He wins 8 games. Jacoby Brissett comes in.
11 games.
Did he win
Yeah,
11?
11
Okay,
and
so they
5,
missed the playoffs. Jacoby Brissett comes in. He wins a couple games. They trade him away. Like, they're confident that Josh McDaniels can coach up anybody. Danny Eatling, if he has to go in for a game, it's a guy who played pro-style
Brian
system.
Hoyer is the backup
Yeah, but
quarterback.
Danny Eatling could play next year. That's how confident this franchise is. Whoever they get in at quarterback, he's going to be mildly successful.
All right, welcome back. Steven Jackson and Chris Broussard are back. Let's move to Salt Lake City, where the Oklahoma City Thunder were eliminated Friday by the Jazz, and Russell Westbrook actually got into it with a couple of fans, first on his way to the locker room for halftime, and then again on his way out when the game was over. Afterward, Westbrook wasn't happy when asked about his confrontation with the fans.
I don't confront fans. Fans confront me. Here in Utah, man, a lot of disrespectful, vulgar things are said to the players here with these fans, man. It's truly disrespectful. Talk about your families, your kids, and it's just a disrespect to the game, man. I think it's something that needs to be brought up. And I'm tired of just going out and playing and letting fans say what the hell they want to say. I'm not with that, because if I was on the street, they wouldn't just come up to me and say anything crazy, because I don't play that. So I just think it's disrespectful when they get the chance to do whatever they want to do. It needs to be put to a stop, especially here in Utah.
All right, Cowherd, did Westbrook go too far? Cross the line here.
Listen, the fans got in his head. The press got in his head. Ricky Rubio got in his head. This was not a great series for Westbrook. Forget the shooting. There's a lot of pressure. I think he was hearing it. You know, hey, man, you got Paul George and Carmelo, Steven Adams. I think he went from Mr. Triple-Double to Mr. Nothing But Trouble in this series. I think his brand shifted. I think when people...
Wow.
I think before this series, when you thought of Westbrook before this series, you are like, he's the most dynamic player in the league. I think you watch this series and you're like, he's got to get it together. They got to stop enabling him. Fans, media, Rubio...
I agree with you. And look, I started out last year championing his MVP, this year defending him. I've said on this show and defended him against your attacks for a long time. Attacks for a long time. He flipped me in this series. He looks mentally weak. Ricky Rubio, just like you said, baited him into a one-on-one confrontation on the court. It wasn't about a team game. It was can I shut Ricky Rubio down? Now fans and this subtle insinuation that Utah fans are somehow worse than fans other places, that's a joke. The guy put a camera, and they showed the video of the one guy. He didn't even say anything. He just put his camera in his face. He's frustrated. They had this season. We've had a lot of people from Kevin Durant and everybody saying you ran Durant out of there. the team's a mess. You get Paul George and Carmelo, it doesn't work, and you're bowing out of the first round of the playoffs. Russell Westbrook melted down.
I definitely don't think this killed his brand. This was not a good look, but to say he's gone from this iconic figure who got triple doubles in 2 straight seasons to now nobody likes me, I don't think it's that bad. However, and I've heard, and Stephen, you obviously played in the league, but I've always heard from players, Utah, Indiana, where you played, I heard was bad with players, and Detroit was terrible. So I don't doubt that Russ was hearing some of the things he was saying. However, you can't jump on just random fans. And if the reports are true that the one fan just said, "How are your ankles?" and Russ went at him, and the other fan was just shooting video, that was bad for Russ, and I think the NBA should investigate it. And if the reports are true and nothing was said, he should get fined heavily. But I don't think this is like a
They'll do nothing
career
because Adam Silver will do nothing to any of these players.
And you're exactly right. They will not do nothing. It's been going on for years.
No, to do something to Russ?
They will not do nothing to Russ, or they will not even investigate if something was said to him, racial or not. They won't even investigate it. I played in Utah in the playoffs, Golden State. Cutout size, life size, with my face on it, cardboard with a jail suit, right under the basket, in the TV view where everybody could see it every time we shot a free throw. No NBA personnel, no Utah personnel came down and told the guy to take it down. If that was LeBron's face, anybody else's face, they would have came and took that down, especially been in TV camera view. They didn't take it down. I went and signed it after the game because the guy wasn't that type of fan. He was actually a good Utah fan, a diehard fan. He wasn't being disrespectful. It was other people in there that were saying racial things and saying stuff about our families, but not this guy. But this is the type of stuff you deal with. They're not going to say anything because it's not affecting the game. You know, I think Russ clearly got outplayed. Donovan Mitchell was the best player in that series, and Russ got rattled. He totally lost his composure in the whole series because Donovan Mitchell was dominating. That's one thing, but you cannot say that he didn't hear anything disrespectful or racial about that because it happens in Utah.
He can't go off on those fans. Those two look like they didn't say
That
it.
wasn't the situation. Let me ask you this. Let's say all these players were 12 years old. Let's just shrink it. They're little kids. And there was a little kid that was talented, had a bad series, and got mad at fans or parents. You'd be like, that kid's a spoiled brat. Right? Okay. Isn't that my complaint about Russ? Joe Presti, Sam Presti, won't knock. Billy Donovan. Kevin Durant went to them and said, we got a problem here. He has been completely spoiled and enabled. Of course he acts like that.
Did Kevin Durant ever come out publicly and say Russell was a big problem?
No.
He was the reason why I left.
No.
Okay, so we got to stop saying that.
No, but
because KD didn't actually say that. He left because of a lot of reasons. He never came out and said Russ was the reason I'm leaving.
Well, but remember, a lot of people in public view don't want to get crushed in the media, so they won't go public. But when he left, there was 2 articles, one of which said KD had complained to the front office, hey, can you talk to him? I'm getting shots in the corner with 1 second on the shot clock. You know, I think we'd all agree, Russ, like you said, this series got upstairs with him. He got
outplayed. He got outplayed
and he went sideways.
The only thing I heard about KD wanting out, because I'm with you, KD's never said that publicly. I did hear for his last few years there, he had a problem with Scotty Brooks and then Billy Donovan for not talking to Russ. Like, look, Russ, in the last 4 minutes, we got to make sure KD gets his shots. KD was upset with that. And you're right, maybe he could have said something to Russ.
Everybody's afraid of Russell Westbrook, and we keep pampering this dude. And again, the behavior keeps getting worse and worse
It does.
and worse.
It keeps...
And because we keep pampering. Again, and as it relates to fans saying things in the arenas or whatever, man, people are making a lot of money, and you're turning over your happiness and your behavior to some idiot who doesn't have nearly as much on the line as you, and so all it takes is a guy in the stands to yell something to you, and you lose your composure and go off and want to get physical with a fan. That can't be the standard. At some point, sticks and stones and words just don't harm you, and they don't dictate your behavior or action and your response. Because there's an idiot doesn't mean you have to, let me go be an idiot too. That's the standard. That if Russ's excuse, I got yelled at and blah, 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 that doesn't justify it.
It doesn't justify it. We all know. I went in the stands. I was involved in the brawl in the stands. You have to have tough skin, but it's no way that me being a man can tell you as another man how to handle a situation when you feel disrespected. I can't tell you how to handle it. You only can handle it. And money, hold up, money, you can pay me all the money in the world. I'm still a man first. So you can't say you paying me money and I have to shut up because I'm disrespected.
But Stephen,
it don't work like that.
Malice
It don't
in the
work like that.
Palace was an unsafe environment. I defended the players. I defended all you guys. I did.
Nobody, I didn't hear it.
Nobody
Nobody defended
when I worked
this.
at the other network and that happened, I said, timeout. This was unsafe for players. That was a goofball fan between me and you going, hey, how do your ankles feel?
So if spit hit my face, I'm definitely saying something.
Okay. If that fan has said something racial to Russ or something about his family, his kids, his wife or something, I have no problem with what Russ did. But if he just said, how's your ankles, or if the guy's just taking,
that's weak. That's weak.
Then you
That's
can't
weak
go
on
off
Russ
on
part.
I'll just go to this point because we got to move on. But if we're going to be controlled by our feelings, it's going to be a long haul in America and anywhere in the globe. If all it takes, he hurt my feelings, so therefore I have to do this. We got to control our own feelings because if we leave it to other people to dictate how we feel, they're always going to be in control of us.
Don't expect me to be a bigger person because I'm not.
It's not about being a bigger person.
I'll never be. If
It's about who's going to be in control of your happiness, you or someone else.
And I'm in control of responding when I feel disrespected. Trust me. I feel you, Russ. I feel you.
All right, to another guy. Hey, you are a bigger man than me, period. Who wasn't happy with how the series ended. Carmelo Anthony, who was absolutely awful against Utah, scoring just 11 points per game, shooting 37% from the field. Even still, Melo said he's not planning on taking a reduced role anytime soon.
I'm not sacrificing no bench role, so that's out the question. I think for me, my focus would be on kind of figuring out what I want out of the rest of my career, what I want in my future. I've sacrificed kind of damn near everything. Family, moving here by myself, sacrifice my game for the sake of the team, and was willing to sacrifice any and everything in order for this situation to work out.
All right, Whitlock, bad look for Melo?
I don't have a problem with it, and I'm going to explain why. Because unlike any of you here, I've actually spent time in Oklahoma City, and I know exactly what he's talking about. Again, players don't like Oklahoma City.
That's true.
The NBA is the wrong city for Oklahoma City, and I apologize to people in Oklahoma. I'm friends with you. It's a college town. It has no business being in the NBA business. Russell Westbrook feels like he's doing them a favor by being there. That's why he acts out. Carmelo Anthony just told you, my God, I'm here in Oklahoma City. And you think I'm going to come off the bench? That's what the mentality is.
It's not a great NBA season.
It's a terrible
I've been there a
one.
lot, but they sell that place out.
Great.
I'm not, look.
And when you still got to go home in Oklahoma City.
Here's the thing. That was a blessing in disguise for Oklahoma City. Yeah. For Melo to say that, if I'm Sam Presti, Billy Don, I'm inviting him to dinner tonight.
Yes.
And I'm saying, Melo, we want you to come off the bench next year.
Yeah.
I act like I ain't even hear we want you to come off the bench. And if he wants to opt out, great. Get us off that $28 million
Exactly.
and go somewhere else. And Melo's a first ballot Hall of Famer to me. But he's going to be in his 16th year. He's done as a franchise cornerstone. I don't know where he could go. If he doesn't want to accept the role, it's going to be like Allen Iverson.
He come off the bench in a real city. It's just not Oklahoma City. He's not giving all
then
that up.
opt out of that $28 million.
Who's giving up $28 million? Melo is not giving up $28 million. He's going to come off that bench. And this is my thing. Okay, I would rather him come out and say, I was upset with how the offense was ran this year. I wasn't put in the positions. I didn't get as many post-ups. Because we all know he's a better post-up player than the pick-and-roll player, which they made him this year. I would have been happy with him saying that. The offense wasn't right. If I do come off the bench, we need to make more plays. I'm more of an option coming with that second group. I would have respected that. But this, we know you're not going to give up no $28 million. Wipe your eyes, Melo. Give him some soup. And get better, bro. Nobody want to hear all that about you not happy. I did all this. I moved here by myself. So what? Give me $28 million to move to OKC. I'll be happy. bells ringing, wearing OKC gear every day, happy.
For about a week.
No, for the whole year.
For 28 million,
for about
you
a
would
week.
be
For 82
smiling
games.
in Oklahoma
For
City.
82 games.
And you ain't there
I
half
told
the
you
season. Half the season, you in other cities.
Money's the motivation.
That other
I told you
half,
that.
man. I'm just that other
28 million?
an NBA player, a relatively
Russ
young.
is there.
What?
28 million.
And Russ is from LA.
That's because he doesn't prioritize a lot of other things that most NBA players do. A good social life, things like that. Oklahoma City is not made for the modern day NBA. It's the worst city in the NBA.
Put me in
you
Utah and give
acting
me
like
28 million.
Indianapolis is all
I
that.
play
It's
in
better
Utah
than
for 28
Oklahoma
million.
City.
Time out.
I play in Benghazi
Is
for 28
Green
million.
Bay a good NFL city?
No, it's not.
Take me to Syria.
We're talking about the NBA.
Durant stayed there for 10 years.
We're talking about Allen Iverson's league. Oklahoma City does not fit. And I'm just telling you.
Harden would have.
You think
they
Would have
offered
when he
him
got
the
the
max,
hell up out
but
of
they
there.
didn't offer
He
because they
left.
shortchanged
He's in
him
Houston.
financially.
Okay,
He's
see,
in
give me
Houston.
$5 million. I'm there.
Hey,
I'm there all time.
He's in
Happy.
Houston. I get Harden hanging the treasures after games. You don't have that in Oklahoma City.
Be live.
It's
you
a
got
whole.
stuff.
It's a whole different
Aaron
mentality.
Rodgers is the biggest American superstar in the NFL. He's like Hollywood-looking guy. He's living in the suburbs in Green Bay for like 8 months a
We're
year.
having two different conversations. We talking hip hop and you talking rock and roll. Oklahoma City's a rock and roll town.
Yes.
The NBA is a hip hop league, and Oklahoma City ain't it.
Melo wasn't the one to bring that argument, though. Not after the way he's been playing at this stage of his career.
But that is what he's thinking. I'm just telling. When he said, "Man, I done sacrificed everything. I'm in Oklahoma City, in the middle of
George
nowhere."
don't say that, I don't want to hear from a 35-year-old Melo.
Paul George better not say anything until he hits a shot again.
Playoff Pete.
All right, welcome back. Stephen Jackson, Chris Broussard return. Feisty show, fun. Let's return to the association where Steve Kerr said Steph Curry is probable for tomorrow night's Game 2 against the Pelicans, and surprisingly will not be on a minutes restriction after missing more than a month with a sprained knee. The move comes despite the fact Golden State didn't need any help from Curry to shred the Pelicans in Game 1. Whitlock, would it be a mistake for the Warriors to play Curry in Game 2?
I think mistake is too strong of a word, but I would err on the side of caution. The guy's got an injury history. They looked so dominant against New Orleans in Game 1 that it makes me think that we kind of overvalued what New Orleans did to Portland, and New Orleans isn't a real threat. I would be very cautious with Steph Curry.
I think one thing Golden State's proven, and Jordan's Bulls did it, and LeBron in Miami proved it, these really high-end NBA teams, they can flip it regular season to playoffs. I mean, the Warriors were terrible defensively in the last month. They lost by 40 twice. The playoffs start, boom. They were great defensively. This is also a team that, if they need something quick, I mean, they're winning 5 out of 6 games without Steph Curry. You could be even in this series. Curry comes in. This is such a high-functioning team. They don't need several games to ramp up their defense, several games to get used to Curry. I kind of trust Golden State's, you talk about, Stephen, basketball intelligence. They just really figure stuff out quickly. I just wait until I lost a game in the series.
Look, if the doctor is saying he's ready now, he's not going to be any more ready for Game 3 than he is right now, then I'd play him. You know, get him out there and play, because Game 1, I know they did flip a switch, but they have not looked great without Steph. They didn't look great in the first round series. Obviously, in the regular season without him, they didn't. And I do think, even though he'll fit in very nicely because they're so used to him and the way they play and as smart as they are, there's always a little adjustment. He's been out for a ton of games. So I think you want to get him back with the offense, get the rust off of him, which he will have some rust, for the Houston series. Get rid of New Orleans as soon as you can. Get Steph as acclimated to his teammates and vice versa as soon as you can. So when you meet Houston in the finals of the West, you're ready and you're clicking on all cylinders.
I have to agree with y'all. I think don't play him until you have to. You won by 40 points last game. Like, go out there. Clay is rolling. You want to continue for Clay to play well, even with Steph out there. I think the only player that they struggle with not having when he's hurt is Draymond, because he's the biggest piece of that puzzle. You can take Clay out and have Draymond, Steph, and KD, they'll still win. You can take KD out and have Steph and Clay. As long as you got Draymond, they still win. I think you can keep Steph out another game or two until you need him. But that rest is vital right now, because I guarantee you those last 2 rounds of the finals, the West Conference Finals and Finals, it's going to be hard. I think they need to rest him as much as they can.
Chris, you flipped me because Houston is next. And what if this series is a sweep and you only get these next three games to get Steph ready for the Western Conference Finals? I think you flipped me.
And as far as the injury, look, it just is what it is. Hopefully Steph doesn't get hurt again. But he's a risk no matter what.
Right.
You could sit him out the next 2 weeks, and when he comes back, the ankles are going to be fragile. The knee could go.
He's had four different body parts.
But the knee was a freak accident. JaVale McGee, he can do that to anybody.
How come
As
LeBron
clumsy as
never
he
has a
is.
freak accident?
Well, he don't have JaVale McGee on his team being clumsy either. All right, that's one thing. You know what I'm saying? That was a freak accident, but Steph is very important to this team. If he's ready, like you say, but I think if they can win another home game without him, play him on the road game 3.
All right, to Boston, where the Celtics injury-plagued season continues tonight with Jaylen Brown doubtful for Game 1 against the Sixers. Brad Stevens has been able to overcome a seemingly endless series of injuries in Boston this year, but his team is now up against one of the more talented young rosters in the NBA. Cowherd, you trust Stevens to overcome Philly's talent in this series?
If he was going to do it, this is the year. The Sixers are young, and young players are easier to manipulate than veterans. You face veteran teams, they've seen all the tricks. You can occasionally get a young team, you get in their head a little bit, you can manipulate them. Sixers are still about, listen, the Sixers beat Miami. Anybody here think Miami's good?
No.
There's a chance we're all getting a little heated on the Sixers, myself included. They beat a really weak Miami team that wouldn't have sniffed the playoffs in the West. I do think Philly right now, this is the weakest they'll be for a decade. Now. Simmons is getting better fast. Embiid, Saric, they have another draft pick. By the way, Markelle Fultz.
LeBron's coming. No.
Well, Markelle Fultz could become a nice player. We don't know.
So you got Boston in this
I
series?
just think it's a really close series. If you ever could beat them on coaching, because, by the way, Ben Simmons may be a coach by next year on the floor. He's still a baby.
Right.
He's just going to get better and better.
This game's competitive, I would be shocked, and I'll go on.
Wow.
Tonight's game.
Series.
Yeah, tonight's game. If Jaylen Brown doesn't play and this game's remotely competitive, Brad Stevens is the greatest thing I've ever seen. That's the only explanation. I think the talent disparity, the momentum that Philadelphia has, I don't see tonight's game being close.
Well, the thing about it, too, what Brad Stevens is good at, those kids play hard.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you watch them and you watch 5 or 6 other NBA teams, it's night and day how hard they play, and this team plays for each other. I think that's what people don't give Brad Stevens credit for. He coaching these guys, and they are playing for each other. It's not that many teams do that. Even LeBron this year, he was going for his stats and not even thinking about his team at one time. This team, the reason why they have so much success, even with their stars down, is because they play for each other and they play together. It's going to be harder without Jaylen, but I still think they got a chance.
Look, I don't care if Jaylen, Jason Tatum, Terry Rozier, or Al Horford go down. Boston's going to make this a tough series.
Exactly.
I mean, Brad Stevens is that good. Like you said, they play hard, they play smart, they play defense, they have shooters. Like, I'm picking Philly in 6. But I would not be surprised if Boston somehow won this series because they shouldn't have beat Milwaukee.
Exactly.
If you look on paper, Milwaukee was far more
They
talented.
had all the stars. Everybody was healthy.
Yep.
Milwaukee was uncoached, though. I mean, that was like official.
And Brett Brown is
They
a good
went
coach.
Yeah,
He's
championship
not
coach.
Brad.
He-
He's
he-
not Brad Stevens, but he's a good coach.
But he's been with Greg Popovich. He's
Yep.
been around championship teams. He was there when 03 with us, so he has that championship pedigree. I like Brett Brown.
Plus, you know what? Is there a player in the league that's a good player that gets no respect like Al Horford? Al Horford was great yesterday. But Al Horford, because he was on those kind of Atlanta teams.
He's always been solid, though.
But I mean, yesterday Al Horford was.
He's played well.
He was the
played
difference.
very well.
I mean, Saturday. And I always feel like, first of all, if you take a good player and then he gets a great coach, the good player, Al Horford, becomes a really good player. I mean, this is a guy in Brad Stevens. Do you think any other coach in the league, Jason Tatum, would be this good this fast with any other coach?
Well, you got to give that credit to Jason Tatum, too. He's good. That kid's good.
Tatum's good.
He's good.
Listen, if this game is competitive with all these disadvantages Boston had, I think it'll say something about Philadelphia. The point you made originally coming off this. Have we overvalued Philadelphia this season off the Miami thing? Look, we've seen Greg Popovich. We've seen
Phil Jackson.
We've seen great. this would be incredible. If this series goes 7 with all this talent Brad Stevens has lost, I think it says more about the Philadelphia 76ers than us overvaluing them than Brad Stevens just, my God.
They're a young team, though. Even as talented as they are, obviously their stars haven't been in the playoffs. And then you look at their veterans, J.J. Redick. I mean, he's not a star.
Right.
You know, Saric, Ilyasova. They are vets, but they don't have a ton of playoff experience, and they weren't in huge roles in the playoffs. So,
We're high on Philly because they're so young, but their composure and the way they're playing, they looking like veterans.
Yeah.
Marco Bellinelli has a championship. He has championship experience. The coach does too. The reason why we're so high on these guys is because nobody expected them to be here, let alone going to the second round with 2 rookies leading their team.
Tonight, I'm representing the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC East champs, divisional champs, NFC champs, and world champs. The world champs. Hey, Dallas, the last time you were in the Super Bowl, these draft picks weren't born.
Welcome back! Time for last call. Cowherd, do you like former Eagles kicker David Akers trolling the Cowboys?
I loved it. This is what I love about these drafts moving to cities, is that people come up and troll the local fans. It's wildly entertaining.
I think he trolled the Eagles more than he trolled the Cowboys. Is that his real voice?
Listen, he was very excited.
Oh.
He doesn't have your rich, resonant broadcasting pipes, but I thought it was great.
All right, David, take this advice. To the Browns, who just announced that the first overall pick, Baker Mayfield, would start the year 3rd on their depth chart. Cowherd, we saw 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round. Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Which one of these guys starts first?
Baker Mayfield. I thought a lot about this. Arizona paid Sam Darnold a lot of money, and he's a veteran, and he's a high-end starter when he's healthy. Who's Cleveland got? It's Baker Mayfield. Who do they have?
The Jets are going to play Sam Darnold immediately. There's no reason not to. It's in New York. McCown, who's like 50 years old. You go with Sam Darnold, your guy, as early as possible. Get those interceptions in early so he learns from those mistakes and he's ready to go next.
Nothing but
season.
cheap shots today.